Please welcome Aaron Cohen.
So has anybody thought about a movie today? Can you just raise your, I guess I can't really see, but generally speaking, it turns out almost all the hands have gone up. And I'm going to talk about some of my favorite artists today, but the essence of what I'm talking about is that movie moments matter greatly to us as a culture, and to me, in a very, very personal way. My latest company is called AnyClip, and we're trying to build a business that allows you to find any moment from any film ever made instantly. The company is built from a real love affair that I have with film, and that all of my colleagues and co-founders have. It began with my dad taking me to see a film called Blazing Saddles when I was 6, and it kicked off a long history of my father taking me to inappropriate films at a young age, which I now have passed on to my children who watch Family Guy religiously at ages 9 and 6. It's a cycle of pop culture abuse. We stepped it up a notch when we saw Animal House at 9, and I was exactly 10 years younger than anyone else in the audience, but these were very formative experiences for me. I learned, of course, what a toga party was, among other things, but the most important thing that happened to me in terms of going to films with my father happened on December 23rd, 1979. I'll never forget it. I was in 7th grade, and my dad said, "Hey, let's go see a movie," and we saw this one at the Circle Theater in Washington, D.C. And last year I sold this company Menu Pages, and I was in a kind of a tough spot. I was anxious, and I get anxious, but I was particularly anxious because I thought, well, this company here, Menu Pages, was about food. And I love food. I didn't know if I could improve on food. I didn't know what I was going to do. So then I thought, well, maybe I could make a business about sex. I mean, I like sex. But I don't know if I like it more than food. And it wasn't clear to me. And then I typically work with venture capitalists, and generally speaking, they don't want to invest in the porn business. So, I thought, well, maybe wine, because food and, wine is sort of between food and sex, right? I mean, it's on the same continuum, but this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, who probably, half the planet now follows on Twitter, is just crushing it in this category. And so I didn't think that would work. So then I thought golf, politics, art, music, something, but none of that was really better than a cheeseburger for me. So I was stuck. And I really couldn't think of a startup that the world needed. And so I decided to make a film. When I was 17 years old, I went to the White Flint Mall in Rockville, Maryland. And I went with my Jewish posse. I had a bunch of Jewish youth group friends. And we saw a film that would change my life forever. I hope some of you are familiar with it. It's called This Is Spinal Tap.
And what happened to Stumpy Joe?
Well, it's not a very pleasant story, but he died, he choked on, the official explanation was he choked on vomit.
It was actually someone else's vomit. It's not
Exactly.
There's no real.
Well, they can't prove whose vomit it was. They don't have facilities in Scotland Yard to print.
You can't really dust for vomit.
So when we came out of the Cineplex, and it was like a brand new Cineplex, multiplex, superplex, and we went through the parking garage and got back to the car, my friends turned to me and they said, "Aaron, I don't understand. Why did you take us to a metal documentary?" And I realized they didn't get the joke. And I changed friends. So I really never returned to my Jewish roots again. Aaron Cohen left his people all because of a band called Spinal Tap. But then I went to college and my tastes expanded and I started discovering these other filmmakers. Michael Moore made, in my opinion, his finest film, Roger and Me, when I was in college. And a young filmmaker named Spike Lee had already made a couple of films and made a special film that I'll show you a little bit about from later. I was heavily influenced by Spalding Gray, who unfortunately committed suicide some years ago. He had invented a new format called the monologue. He was directed by a young Jonathan Demme who'd already made Stop Making Sense in a film called Swimming to Cambodia, which I strongly encourage you to see. But I want to share with you Ross McElway's work. Ross was a film professor at Harvard, and he got a grant from the National Endowment of Arts. You remember the National Endowment of Arts. This was in the 80s. A guy named Reagan still hadn't quite done away with the National Endowment of Arts then, and you needed to get a grant as a documentary filmmaker then because there was no video. You couldn't just pick something up. Ross got the grant. He was going to make a film about William Tecumseh Sherman's march through the South. It ravaged the South, and the Union won the war. And he thought, well, maybe we could make a movie about kind of an up-to-date, like what's happened to the South? What have been the repercussions of that? And it was a great idea for a documentary, but Ross lost his way. I wonder why.
I'd just gotten a grant to make my film, and I stopped off in New York from Boston, where I live, to stay for a few days with the woman I'd been seeing. But when I arrived, she told me she'd just decided to go back to her former boyfriend. We argued, and then I left, and went to stay alone in a friend's studio loft, which happened to be vacant at the time.
This is a man who turned the camera on and just started shooting. He just shot, and he made an extraordinary film about Southern American society in the early 80s. So I've shared with you Spinal Tap, and I've shared with you Sherman's March, and I've talked to you about Swimming to Cambodia, and the reasons for that are because there are people whose moments I can't stop thinking about as I go on with my own career in startups and career in filmmaking. And this guy had more influence on me than anybody, and I was really devastated when he started sleeping with his then college freshman age stepdaughter. And I unfortunately, I never saw any of his movies again. And I've heard from those of you in the audience that Vicky Cristina Barcelona is great. And I'm trying to break down and start to see more of them. But I can tell you this, I never stopped thinking about this film and its moments, or this one, or this one. These movie moments matter, and movie moments matter in general. This is a day that we are talking about creativity. And for me, there is nothing more creative than startups and films. And it's because they're so collaborative. You know, it takes so many people to work on both of these, and let's face it, so many of these things don't work out. You have to be drawn in and believe in them and never give up. And that requires a certain kind of emotional energy that I think is at the core of real creativity. It requires faith and it requires passion. Faith and passion. And that's important when you think about starting to get into work with these guys. These guys have a lot of rules. And they're good rules. And you know what? They're going through a pretty heavy time right now. From Hollywood to Bollywood, the digital world is changing this business. And very, very smart people are trying to navigate uncertain times. But we at AnyClip have an idea. We say, hey, there's a real opportunity for us here. Let's seize the day. Because if I let all of you share your favorite moments with all of the people in the room, then maybe we can start to see much more consumption of these amazing cultural artifacts like Spinal Tap, like Sherman's March, that are frankly hard to access right now. Think about it. Any moment from any film ever made, instantly. Couple that with your social graph. Take that with Facebook and Twitter, and you unlock the power of the library. And you know the moments I'm talking about. I know you do. Because if I say, show me the money. If I say, if you build it, they will come. If I say, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father. And finally, from Jaws, if I say, uh-oh, we're going to need a bigger, you know. You know, but it's important to realize that those are ways in which we remember dialogue collectively, and dialogue's one of the use cases, but not every use case for remembering film is related to dialogue. Sometimes you want to describe the scenes, or maybe sometimes you just want to turn for inspiration. What happens if, as Christine asked me to do, Christine on the organizing committee asked me to do, she says, what happens when you type in creativity? Well, let me tell you what happens. You find a guy named Ed Harris who played my favorite artist in the world, Jackson Pollock, in a film called Pollock. Pollock, Sherman's March, Spinal Tap, all examples of amazing creativity. But you know, I'm a dad. You want to talk creativity? Parenting requires creativity. Parenting. Maybe this has never been more poignant and more beautifully realized than in Roberto Benigni's film, Life is Beautiful. This is a film in which a father and a son are put into a concentration camp. And this father will do anything in his power to make sure that his son doesn't realize their fate. And slowly, the son begins to realize what's happening. But the father continues to create an unbelievable backstory.
Noi ci fanno i bottoni al sapone.
Ma che dici?
Ci bruciano tutti nel forno.
Ma chi te l'ha detto?
Un uomo piangeva e ha detto che con noi ci fanno i bottoni al sapone.
Giosuè, ma ci sei cascato! Ci sei cascato un'altra volta! Guarda, eppure ti facevo un ragazzino vispo, furbo, intelligente. I bottoni di sapone con le persone. Ma sarebbe il colmo dei colmi, ma dai!
So I told you I was making a movie. It's probably about this. Because remember, in the White Flint parking lot, I left my Jewish roots behind, well, in theory, but now I'm showing you Roberto Benigni. And I'm running an Israeli company, AnyClip. My film is a Jewish comedy. I'm sort of rediscovering myself, and I decided the best way to do that is to meet 150 people on Facebook named Aaron Cohen. I'm making a film about 100 people named Aaron Cohen and their mothers. Here's a preview.
I didn't kiss a girl until May 18th, 1996, which was 2 weeks before my high school graduation.
As a kid, I don't know if I'm allowed to go with it, but I told people to call me Muggsy when I was growing up because I was such a big fan of Muggsy Bogues, the 5'3" basketball player.
I mean, I imagine in show business there are plenty of Aaron Cohens for some reason. I just imagine that. It doesn't pop out. You know, you're reading a script by Aaron Cohen. Okay, by some Jew. That's what that said.
This is Aaron, Aaron, and this is Aaron.
What's my mother like? A whole lot of things.
Very protective, very supportive, very involved, involved in everything, over-involved.
She's a little bit crazy, just a little bit.
She told me to call her when it was over.
I got the kids singing, Aaron Cohen, he's a hero, taking the rap game back to ground zero. My style's free, like let my people go. I never pass the mic, I don't even let my people flow. I just put it down like a dog at the pound. I put it down till it hits the ground. You love the ground, you love the...
Thanks. So, we all day we've been talking about creativity, and for me, as I said, that comes in films and startups. Startups about films, and even films about startups. I think that in many ways, AnyClip got its genesis in the fact that I needed Spinal Tap and Woody Allen and all these people at my fingertips, and it's not easy to do. And we can find a way to do it that is so good for the movie industry. Here is a chance for the two industries to come together in a very productive way and make a solution that combats piracy. Hollywood has an uncertain future, so they think. But I'm confident that we're going to have a renaissance. I feel good about it. And I feel that any moment from any film ever made, instantly, will fuel growth. So, Ossie Davis plays the role of the mayor in Spike Lee's magnum opus, Do the Right Thing. And he says something very powerful that I've always tried to live by, and this is it.
This is the mayor talking.
All right, all right.
Doctor?
Come on, what?
Always do the right thing.
That's it?
That's it.
I got it. I'm gone.
Thanks.